evolution of new technology is rapidly transforming traditional methods of instruction, giving rise to a host of educational options, challenges, and resources. McCurry states that the incorporation of these technologies within the corporate workspace has also created a need for educational systems to address 21st century technology skills. But how will instructors find time to address the individual needs of each learner? The ability to address these individual needs is becoming an urgent priority. One proposed solution to the individualization puzzle is the learning management system. These flexible delivery systems allow for whole group instruction, provide flexibility in the delivery of the instruction, and can also target individual learner needs. However, differentiating the content matter is still the responsibility of the instructional designer, and online courses present a unique challenge. The evolution of technology has blurred the boundaries of traditional courses. Common methods of instruction, such as writing, speech, numerical means, and images, have merged into new technology-based communication methods that include multimedia materials. Kress, Jewett, and Satsarelis state that these multimodal communication methods have started to influence the instructional community, while Lankshire and Noble state that language alone is no longer enough. These multimodal treatments have been applied with success within learning management systems as instructional methods, but Beasley and Beck point out that their value as a differentiated assessment method have not been explored within the research. The purpose of this study is to identify the relationship between digital differentiation and content mastery. Specifically, if assessment differentiation affects the outcome of content mastery when assessment choice is given to the learner based on their preferred learning style. A secondary element of the study also seeks to determine if assessment choice adds to the satisfaction level of the learner and makes them feel more connected to their instructor. This study focuses on the concepts established in multimodality theory, while the content delivery methods are based on the cognitive theory of multimedia learning. Kress, Jewett, and Satsarelis assert that within online education, images play a central role in representation, moving from the function of illustration to the role of full communication. Multimodal representation de-emphasizes writing as a central reflection of knowledge, while a greater representation of visual or auditory artifacts allows for the communication of content knowledge. Kress and Selander assert that this ability to respond in video, audio, writing, or a combination thereof opens the potential for increased communication. The cognitive theory of multimedia learning is also considered as it addresses the delivery of multimedia content without cognitive overload. While there are several studies available that determine online best practices, none of these studies address differentiation within an online setting. This study may be useful in developing differentiation methods for effective online course design, thereby giving instructors direction when considering the needs of all learning styles within the online learning management system. This study may also contribute to multimodality theory, adding weight to the concept of allowing multimodal assessments when a specific mode is not required. This study strives to answer the following research questions. How does digital assessment differentiation affect learning mastery among learner types within an online learning environment? We believe that digital assessment differentiation will produce a significant finding wherein the ability to choose will allow the learner a greater range of multimodal content expression, thereby demonstrating content mastery using the learning mode that allows them to communicate easily. Our second question involves how does digital assessment differentiation affect learner perception of the online learning environment? We believe that digital assessment differentiation will produce a significant effect on the learner satisfaction of the online course delivery. Delimitations of this proposal include the learner environment, a literature review of the learning management system, and the sample set. An analysis of the learner environment will not be conducted due to the online nature of the course. The learner environment is designated online, and resources are not available to observe every learner in their chosen environment at all times. A literature review concerning the effectiveness of learning management systems will not be conducted due to time constraints and to manage the scope and breadth of the research. Finally, The study will only reflect higher education, as a K-12 research project would exhaust the resources currently available to experiment. We also recognize several limitations concerning this proposed study. The initial assessment that determines the learner type is self-reported, and this method of assessment is deemed controversial. The VARK assessment details a list of guidelines to apply the evaluation within a research environment, and we will adhere to those guidelines to preserve the validity of the research. The learner must have access to the learning management system, and if their access is disrupted, the learner may be excluded from the study. We also recognize that our sample may contain a wide range of ages, and that the mixed generations of the online learners will yield a fluctuation in technology skills. Finally, we recognize that the setting effects may influence the online learner, and that they may choose to utilize an assessment mode that they would not have used had they not been observed. We assume that our subjects will answer the initial VARK questionnaire as honestly as possible. Given the course level of our participants, we believe that the students will have a measure of comfortability in the navigation of the learning management system, and as the research is conducted as part of an online course, we assume that participants will perform at the academic level that they have demonstrated previously. An internet-based field experiment was chosen for this research. Courses are delivered in an online atmosphere within a learning management system, giving the researcher control over several issues that may arise outside of an LMS, such as the ability to prevent multiple submissions, as well as precise tracking of dropouts. Student learning styles will be determined via a VARK questionnaire delivered within the system. Students will then be sorted randomly into the control and experimental groups using Borg and Gall's 1979 guidelines for matched pair design. This method was chosen so that the loss of precision is counterbalanced by the avoidance of loss of subjects. Each individual within the matched pair will be randomly assigned to the control or experimental group. The content of the course will be delivered identically to both groups via a combination of video lecture and online documents based on the cognitive theory of multimedia learning. The experimental treatment is the digital differentiation of the assessment. The experimental group will receive the opportunity to choose how to submit the assignment, while the control group will utilize a standard text-based multiple-choice assessment. Both assessments will be aligned to the same course-based standards. However, the experimental group will be allowed to submit the assessment as either a text entry, a video, an audio file, or a photographic representation of content knowledge, and this assessment will utilize an instructor-based rubric to determine mastery. As the instructor grades the rubric within the learning management system, the system will generate the necessary data. Upon the end of the experiment, and due to the high number of variables, an analysis of variance, or ANOVA test, will be used to compare the control and experimental groups and test the hypotheses. I chose this research study due to my background in a blended classroom environment. I am currently developing a framework of best practices within a learning management system in hopes of inspiring more instructors to utilize these systems to their full potential. My own experience with English language learners using an LMS forced me to find innovative ways to adapt the system to ensure their content mastery while overcoming the additional language barriers. These experiences introduced me to both multimodal theory as a possible solution and cognitive theory of multimedia learning as a potential barrier. Given my background as a creative professional, I must be aware of my bias towards multimodal theory as an effective learning method. This theory supports my personal belief that creativity is an essential part of learning, and I must take great care not to allow these personal feelings to affect the results of this experiment. For that purpose, I've chosen several methods to ensure the validity of the final data. Starting with participants, we will pull a large sample set, utilizing probability-based cluster sampling to offset the number of variables. The VARK assessment will be administered within the LMS to preserve the integrity of the results, and the content assessment will be designed by the course instructors as they are most qualified to assess content mastery. The LMS reporting system will be utilized to create the data set. Using a statistical method of measure, combined with the probability-based sample and the computer-reported data set, this should effectively prevent researcher bias.